straight paver. This was the last paver that was straight. So I'm going to set my ruler up against that straight paver there. And I'm going to take a soapstone and I'm going to mark it. What that's going to do is give me a wider area here, and it should be at that point at the front area. I'll cut that off. When I cut that off, it would be like it was. Those are my last straight paver. When I cut that off, this is the wrong side, but it would start to curve around the outside of it. Everybody follow me? So then my next one is up against the field there. Now I'm going to do it again. Cut that one, and each one of those are going to be cut all the way around. If the radius is the same, every stone will have the same cut. That's the best way. It actually looks the best if every stone has the same cut. If the radius changes, it's not going to matter, but every one of those will look the exact same, and we're keeping that same 8 inch width around it. No, you always want to have the cut on the same side. So when I cut this, and this was a bad piece, like this was actually cut on the other side. If I was doing the other way, here, there, if I was doing my field here, every cut would be on the same side, so that they butt up to each other. These have spacer bars on it, but if they're all cut on the same side of it, that space would be the exact same all the way around. So even though they don't have spacer bars, they would all have the same exact space. Yeah. So now we're starting to cut in the outside of our pavers there, and we're going to set our soldier course. Remember, we're still 6 inches in. So when we did that marking of the field, you can move that you can move that edging in or out, and that might help to eliminate some cuts or keep some full stones, keep some chips out of there. But even when you have small chips there, if this was mulch right up to it, that's pretty bad. But because we have the soldier course, it kind of hides those, especially when you use it. It hides those from the inside. Any questions? Still on check? Alright. So now we've laid all of our pavers, we cut in our soldier course to the outside of it. Alright, so now we're going to lay our edging right up against it. When we lay our edging, obviously in straight areas, don't cut the edging. We just take this edging and we butt it right up to the pavers. But we are not going to take it and lay it on top of the sand. There's one big mistake even contractors make quite a bit. See how this edging is? We pulled that sand, even though we screeded the sand out in that big 6-inch area, we're actually going to take our edging, just flip it over, right up against your last paver, and pull that sand away. We don't want to lay this on top of the sand. That sand is obviously not very stable, it's not compacted or anything. So we want to take our edging, pull the sand away, put our edging right up against the paver itself, and then take a spike and put it in. These do not need to be spiked in a straight area, probably about every 3rd to 4th one. You want to make sure you use a galvanized stake, 10-inch stake. Put those stakes in there, 10 inches, it rusts in there. When it rusts in the ground, it can't be pulled out of these areas. It makes it a lot more difficult for it to be pulled out of the holes here. So, about every 3rd to 4th one in a straight area. In a curved area, if anybody's doing a big curved area, I recommend every other hole for these areas. They sell them in 50-pound boxes with 150 stakes per lot. So every other one in a curved area, every one. The snap edge actually locks together. There's actually a piece that will slide into each other, so each one of the snap edge units will connect towards each other. Alright, so now we put our edging on the outside of it. Now we're ready to do a compaction, but we're going to decide what type of sand we're going to use. Alright, so there's a couple different ways we can finish off our pavers. We've got to think about that before we finish. Before we do this last final compaction. One, you can use what they call polymeric sand. Polymeric sand is a sand that has polymers in it. When they get wet, they're activated and they actually harden up. What What that does is prevent the sand from washing out over time. It prevents weeds. I'm not going to say 100%, but it will get rid of most weeds, and it prevents ants and different things from embedding in it. It's about a 3 to 5 year fix. Probably needs to be redone, or eventually have some kind of a sealer stabilizer put into that sand over there. But I highly recommend doing it versus regular joint sand. I think they just use regular joint sand here without any stabilization. It's loose, and it eventually will get up on the top of the pavers there. So if we're using polymeric sand, we can start to apply our polymeric sand at this point before I find out the patch.